We kind of knew this day was coming soon, but it's still hard to accept. 22-time major singles champion and all-time tennis legend Rafael Nadal has officially announced his retirement from professional tennis today. In a 4.5-minute video posted to his social media breaking the news, Nadal said, "The reality is that it has been some difficult years, these last two especially. I don't think I've been able to play without limitation. It is obviously a difficult decision, one that has taken me some time to make. But in this life, everything has a beginning and an end. And I think it's the appropriate time to put an end to a career that has been long and much more successful than I could have ever imagined." Nadal also thanked his team, his family, and his fans for their continued support throughout his 23-year-long career. Next month's Davis Cup Finals will be his last tournament, and Nadal calls it a full circle moment since one of his first great joys was winning his first ever Davis Cup title back in 2004. 20 years ago. I think this is a great, just very fitting way for Rafa to put an end to his career. He loves representing his country. It means a lot to him, and he's won Davis Cup 5 times throughout his career. He also holds an impeccable 29-1 singles record in Davis Cup, with that lone loss being over 20 years ago. It's also better that these finals will take place in Spain so that he'll be able to say goodbye in his home country. Finals start on November 19th, and it is a knockout stage. Spain will open against Netherlands in the quarterfinals, which I think that they should take, to be honest, especially with Carlos Alcaraz being in the lineup. I think Spain has a decent shot at taking the whole thing, to be honest. Their biggest threats, the defending champion Team Italy and then Team USA, are in the top half, so they won't have to face either of them at least until the finals. Plus, Spain's potential semifinal opponents, Germany and Canada, are both missing their star players in Alexander Zverev and Felix Auger-Aliassime. Until the Davis Cup, Nadal will participate in the Six Kings Slams exhibition in Saudi Arabia, which starts next week. Novak Djokovic, Carlos Alcaraz, and Jannik Sinner will join him, and the winner takes home a whopping $6 million. Those three, Djokovic, Alcaraz, and Sinner, dedicated IG posts to Rafa following the news of his retirement. Novak gave a beautiful, just heartfelt dedication to Nadal, saying, "Rafa, one post is not enough to express the respect I have for you and what you have done for our sport. You have inspired millions of children to start playing tennis, and I think that's probably the greatest achievement anyone can wish for. Your tenacity, dedication, and fighting spirit are going to be taught for decades. Your legacy will live forever. Only you know what you had to endure to become an icon of tennis and sport in general. Thank you for pushing me to the very limit so many times in our rivalry that has impacted me the most as a player. Your passion for representing Spain has always been remarkable. I wish you the best possible farewell in Malaga with the Davis Cup team of Spain. I will be there in person to pay respect to your stellar career." Nadal's Davis Cup teammate, Carlos Alcaraz, wrote, "From the boy who watched you on television and dreamed of becoming a tennis player to man who had the immense gift of playing tennis by your side in Roland Garros, representing Spain in an Olympic Games. Thank you so much for being an example on every level. Your legacy is unrepeatable. I enjoyed you very much, and I will miss you a lot when you leave after Davis Cup, Rafa." That was very sweet from Novak, and of course Carlos too, but focusing on Djokovic, he is such a class act, and honestly, his post got me a little bit emotional, not gonna lie. And then Jannik Sinner, he wrote, "Thank you, Rafa, for everything you have given to the sport. To have the chance to spend a few weeks training with you a few years ago is something I'll never forget. To watch you as an athlete, but also get to know you as a person off the court was even more special. A true legend of the game who paved the way and taught so many of us how to be a player and as a person. You will be missed on the tour." And then Roger Federer kept it pretty brief with an IG story post saying, "Congrats, Rafa, on an iconic career," before posting a few other photos of the two together. A little bit underwhelming, not gonna lie, but I feel like Raj will have a longer, edgy post in store for Rafa when Nadal actually does end up playing his final match. Now, my favorite Nadal dedication post actually came from Dino Medvedev's coach, Gil Savara, who basically was giving it like a funny, shady dig towards Rafa, who of course beat Daniil in 2 slam finals, the 2019 US Open and 2022 Australian Open. Both those came in 5 sets, so that's definitely funny. To be honest, Rafa would probably be my favorite Big Three member. I just have such an admiration for his tenacity and his fight. Just nobody put in as much effort on the tennis court like Rafa Nadal. That's a fact. It's definitely, I'm sad to see him retire for sure, but I am happy that he is finally putting an end to the pain that he's endured the last few years. Rafa has talked about wanting a pain-free life outside of tennis once the game is all said and done. And I think that he's finally choosing that for himself. The reason why I titled this video Nadal to finally retire is because of the numerous injuries and setbacks that Rafa has faced in the last few years. His really serious recent injury struggle started at the 2021 French Open due to the chronic Müller-Weiss foot syndrome that he had, and that caused him to shut down the rest of his 2021 season after playing 2 matches at the City Open. Nadal returned for 2022, which in hindsight will be his final full year on the tour. He started it the best way possible, winning the Australian Open, and that'll go down as his most iconic and meaningful slam win. Just because of all the injury issues and Nadal seriously contemplating retirement around that time before that, especially to the way he recovered from 2 sets to love down in the final against Medvedev to claim that Australian Open, the one slam he never won multiple times at that point. Rafa began the season on a 20-match win streak that was snapped in the Indian Wells final by Taylor Fritz, where he suffered a stress fracture in his rib. Nadal took some time off to nurse that abdominal issue, and he returned for the clay season, where he eventually somehow won Roland Garros despite being low on matches on the dirt leading into that slam. He beat the title favorite Novak Djokovic in the quarterfinals, which was his last ever victory over his Serbian rival. There were serious talks about Rafa achieving the calendar year slam going into Wimbledon, especially after he reached the quarterfinals. However, Rafael aggravated that same abdominal injury from earlier in the year during his quarterfinal against none other than Taylor Fritz. Despite his team telling him to stop repeatedly throughout the match, Nadal kept on, and he eventually won the match in 5 sets, but he had to pull out from his semifinal against Nick Kyrgios. Rafa then took a 6-week layoff and returned for the hardcourt swing in North America, but really he would never be the same since then. He lost in the 4th round of the US Open to Francis Tiafoe for his earliest loss in a major in 5 years. The Spaniard then ended the year with a 1-2 finish at the ATP Finals, and he did not really look right at all at the start of 2023, and he surprisingly lost to Mackie McDonald in straight sets in the Australian Open 2nd round, suffering greatly with a hip injury. This honestly will be the last big dagger to Nadal's career, as he shut down his entire 2023 season after the Australian Open, and he hinted at 2024 being his final season on the tour, which it would be indeed. 2024 was promising for Rafa initially, as he opened the season with 2 straight sets wins, and he had 3 match points against Jordan Thompson in the quarterfinals, but he could not close it out, and unfortunately he ultimately suffered a muscle injury during this match, which forced him out of the Australian Open. Nadal sat out from then until the clay season, where he had his biggest standout result since the comeback in Madrid, where he reached the round of 16. That low-key felt like his last true tournament, to be honest, as the build-up for each match was major, especially with Rafa playing in his home country. Plus, the tournament gave him a nice tribute after he lost to Yulia Putintseva in that round of 16. Nadal got a brutal draw at Roland Garros, where he played and lost to the eventual finalist Alexander Zverev in the 1st round. He then skipped Wimbledon to prep for the Olympics, which were played at the venue of Roland Garros, where he lost to Novak Djokovic in the 2nd round for his final ever non-Davis Cup match. Nadal was optimistic, though, about his prospects of playing into 2025, and he talked about even wanting to play in the US Open this year, but he decided against it ultimately because he felt like he was not at 100%, and that's the same reason why he didn't play the Laver Cup after originally committing to playing that tournament. Thinking back on Rafa's last, I think they're pretty ideal. His last singles title came at Roland Garros, where he beat, of course, Novak in the quarterfinal, like I mentioned earlier, and then his last non-team event were the Olympics, where he won before in 2008, and he came at Roland Garros, the site of so much of his previous glory, and then he had ended that tournament with a loss to his great rival Novak Djokovic in the singles at least, and then he closed out the doubles with a loss alongside Carlos Alcaraz in the quarterfinals. His last Wimbledon match was a win, of course, over Taylor Fritz, and then his last US Open was unfortunately a loss, but to an American rising star in Francis Tiafoe, and then his last Australian Open, honestly, it wasn't ideal. He lost to another American, but a lower ranked one in Mackie McDonald. It truly is the end of an era, and I'm kind of sad. You know, Serena and Federer, they retired 2 years earlier in 2022. Murray, he retired this year, and now, of course, Nadal. But you know who hasn't retired? Venus Williams. Venus Williams still went strong. She's still going strong, y'all. After all the greats passed on, Venus Williams will still go on. She'll still probably call herself an active player even after Novak Djokovic retires. And I guess the pattern goes 2022, Federer, 2024, Nadal, and then 2026, Novak. I don't even want to think about that. But anyways, in all seriousness, Rafa will be remembered in this sport forever. Nobody will ever eclipse Nadal's 14 Roland Garros titles ever. That's a record that will remain unbroken and will stand the test of time for sure. Nobody also will ever hold the title King of Clay. That name is synonymous with Rafael Nadal. Talking about Rafa's big accomplishments throughout his career, he's one of 3 men in history to have completed the career Golden Slam in singles. He's also the youngest ever to complete the career Grand Slam, and then he's the first man to win major titles on 3 different surfaces in a calendar year. That happened back in 2010. Despite his numerous bouts with injuries, Nadal is the first man to win multiple slams and rank world number 1 in 3 different decades. And it's kind of crazy too when you think about how Nadal has missed 19 majors throughout his career, and yet he has still accomplished so much. When he is 100%, Rafael Nadal is perhaps one of the most difficult players in tennis to beat, especially on clay. That's a near impossible thing to do. While you can say that Nadal's body ultimately let him down towards the end of his career, it's important to remember that first, not everybody can play forever. Father Time will catch up to you eventually, and this was bound to happen. But also, seeing it from a glass half full perspective, there were countless times where Rafa suffered really career-threatening injuries, and he still played on and won multiple slams. That's what I'm going to remember most about Rafa, his unparalleled fight and his never-say-die attitude. Thank you, Rafa, and congratulations on an incredible, legendary tennis career. Now, focusing on current tennis action, it just overall was not a good day for Carlos Alcaraz. Aside from his idol announcing his retirement from tennis, his 12-match win streak was snapped in the Shanghai quarterfinals by Czech Thomas Machac, who won 7-6, 7-5. Machac, aka the king of short shorts, is simply playing unbelievable, the best tennis of his life right now, and he even said so himself after this match. He's coming off a strong run to the Tokyo semifinals, and here he beat Tommy Paul for the 2nd straight tournament. Machac's aggressive brand of tennis paid off well today, and he won 19 of 20 points at the net, despite hitting 11 more unforced errors than winners. This match was super tight and was decided really by Tomas's clutchness, as he saved 7 of 8 break points faced, and he broke Alcaraz and his serve twice to get the job done in under 2 hours. Machac's victory denied us another Sinner-Alcaraz clash here in the semifinals, which I'm not that mad at, to be honest. We just had that Beijing epic final, so it's kind of nice to get a little bit of a break between that epic matchup in itself. Yannick, meanwhile, he had a much more straightforward quarterfinal win, setting off Dino Medvedev 1-4. Meanwhile, in Wuhan, we're 1 round away from the blockbuster semifinal between Aryna Sabalenka and Coco Gauff. Gauff arguably played her best match of the entire season when she dominated Marta Kostyuk 6-4, 6-1. All 3 of Gauff and Kostyuk's previous encounters were intense, and Marta won their last meeting in Stuttgart, which was an epic roller coaster that ended at 7-6 in the 3rd set. But Gauff made sure that this one was drama-free, as it was just clean hitting from the American, who had 10 winners to just 9 unforced errors. And her forehand looked so good, y'all. It's the best that it's ever looked, and she's been hitting it with so much pace and conviction lately. Matt Daly is going to be Coach of the Year in 2025. I tweeted it, and I'm putting it out there. You heard it here first. Matt Daly, just bow down to Matt Daly, y'all. Anyways, most impressively from Coco in this match was her serve, and it held up beautifully. Coco didn't hit a single double fault, which is rare for a Coco Gauff match. Again, it's the best I feel like she's played this year, even better than both the Muhova Beijing final, because even in that final she struggled with her serve, but here it was just straightforward on that front. And then I honestly think it's better than her summer of 2023. Just overall, I've never seen Coco play like this. It's her best I've seen her play. And I think it comes down to multiple things: the new coach in Matt Daly, the lack of pressure now that's on her after those US Open Finals points have gone and there's less expectations overall on Coco, and then also her determination after that tough US Open defeat. We saw the same thing happen after she suffered that heartbreaking Wimbledon 1st round loss to Kenin last year. And then too, the bun. Coco is now 26-1 when she wears her hair in a bun, so definitely that needs to be her signature hairstyle. If Coco maintains this level, she's going to be incredibly tough to beat, and I feel like she's going to win a slam in 2025 if she keeps this level up. No question about it. Gauff now did say in her post-match on-court interview that she is a bit fatigued after playing first 6 matches in Beijing last week and then now coming here. So it will be interesting to see if that comes into effect in her next match in the quarterfinal against Magda Linette. Sabalenka, meanwhile, will need to get past a Polish woman herself in Magdalena Frech if she wants to keep her Wuhan three-peat alive. Aryna pulled off one of her most impressive come-from-behind wins this season, upending Yulia Putintseva 1-6, 6-4, 6-love. Putintseva purely outplayed the error-prone Sabalenka for half of the match, and she was in prime position to take it, being up 6-1, 4-3 with a break point. But Sabalenka escaped that game and rode off the last 9 games of the match to reach her 11th consecutive WTA quarterfinal. This win means that Sabalenka is now #1 in the WTA live race, surpassing Iga Swiatek and putting her in a much better position to end the year as world #1. Even if she does win the title here in Wuhan, though, Sabalenka will not overtake Iga for the top spot after the tournament is over. But Swiatek is defending 1,500 points from going undefeated at last year's WTA finals, so Aryna would be the heavy favorite to get the top spot at the end of the year if she were to go all the way here in China. Sabalenka will be the big favorite over Freck in this quarterfinal, although the Pole is enjoying her best run of form in her entire career, winning Guadalajara last month before taking down Emma Navarro, the 6th seed, and now Beatriz Haddad Maia in Wuhan. It will be their first career meeting, and I'm intrigued to see whether Frex and her craftiness will trouble Big Lenka, but I still believe that Sabalenka will ultimately prevail. We could also have an all-Chinese semifinal between 5th seed Qinwen Zhang and Xinyu Wang. Zhang came back to eliminate Lila Fernandez 5-7, 6-3, 6-love, while Wang scalped 2nd seed Jessica Pegula 6-3, 7-5. Zhang will star in the most intriguing quarterfinal when she takes on 3rd seed Jasmine Paolini. Meanwhile, Wang plays Russian Ekaterina Alexandrova. That is it for this Christian's Court report, and let me know in the comments how you feel about Rafa calling it quits. Are you more sad to see him go, or a little bit more relieved that he's now finally at peace and will end things on his own terms, with his body still being a little bit pretty much intact? Also, let me know your favorite Rafa Nadal memories too in the comments. Mine would definitely be that 2022 Australian Open win over Medvedev. It was just, I think that was his best ever, most epic win in his career. Again, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post my next Asian Swing Christians Court report. Thank you so much for watching and for your support, and I'll see y'all next time here on Christians Court.